Joe talks about Joe. And now, your host, Joe Slepsky.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Joe on Joe. It is me, your host, Joe Slepsky, broadcasting live from Los Angeles, California, just outside Beverly Hills, adjacent to, this will come in handy later, the Los Angeles courthouse. That's right, kids. I have to be careful because I can't break any violation laws. It's a special episode of Joe on Joe Jury Duty Week. That's right. I'm on jury duty this week, and we're not supposed to talk about it. So I'm not going to talk about it, except to say that I'm on jury duty this week. And boy, it sucks. So here's what sucks about jury duty. Well, wait, before we get into what sucks about jury duty, guys, I want to say thank you and welcome back to Joe on Joe. This is the podcast where I, Joe Slepsky, go over every issue of G.I. Joe Real American Hero in sequential order. And today we're doing Saturday Morning Adventures issue number 2. Woohoo! So I'm very excited about that. So that's a new book. That came out last week. I actually should have done it last week. It came out not last Wednesday, but the prior Wednesday. I should have done it then, but I forgot. I forgot that it came out, so we did 121. So so we're going to jump back and we're going to do Saturday Morning Adventures number 2, which is a fabulously fun book. I really enjoyed it, and we're going to get to it, so I don't want to bury that lead. We also have, we got 2 dogs staring at me right now. They're curious as to what's going on. I'm imminently arriving is my body massage. That's right, my Super 7 Roadblock body massage figure and Mutton Junkyard have shipped, so I'm eagerly awaiting those. If you guys are into the Joe RPG world, I know Renegade Games is doing, it's a whole G.I. Joe month, so they're doing like every week they're sending out G.I. Joe mailers and updating you. They've given away, or not given away, but like put out their a free Duke build for your RPG, and I think I just got an email today. It said it had a Scarlet build for you RPG fans. I did just crack that book open and start to read it. I've never played an RPG. Or no, I take that back. I have played RPGs. I don't like them. But I've never DM'd one, and I've never really understood how to play them. Maybe that's why I don't like them. But we're going to give it a try at some point. So the journey has begun on that front. God bless. Yeah, and I think that's it. I think that's kind of all the Joe action this week that's fit to print. Yeah. So I got jury duty. This is fun. I don't do a ton of like, how was your week talk? Because I think it's not great. It's not what you're here for. But this is, I've never done jury duty before. So I can't talk about the case, but here's what I can talk about. They don't pay jurors anything. And I know we always knew this. I know everyone's known this. They say, they pay jurors like $13 a day or whatever the number is. Like, so let's just say it's $15 a day. I don't know. Why don't juries get minimum wage? Can someone explain this to me? Can someone explain to me, in a world where we're screaming to high heaven that hourly workers need to be paid minimum wage, why are juries not in a courtroom? The only people that don't want to be there for real and our juries, like even a defendant could want to be there because they want to clear their name or they want to defend themselves against this thing. Maybe they don't want to be there because they did it, but sure, they're there because they want to somehow make their case that they didn't do the crime or the whatever. The thing I'm on is a personal civil case, so it's nothing like that. So it's all just 2 people yelling at each other. But in the world of that, the judge is paid to be there. The clerk is paid to be there. Juries are not paid to be there. Why are juries not paid minimum wage for their time, money, and effort to take out of their time? And I don't want to hear this crap about like it's your civic duty BS. On a civil case, it's my civic duty to adjudicate 2 who can't get along. That's part of my French. I shouldn't have sworn on this. I'm just saying, it makes no sense to me. And you know what? Just roll those fees into whatever fees the people suing people have to, because they have to pay court fees. I know they do. They pay the court fees for the stenographers, and they can pay the court fees for whoever, the judge or the court attendant. Those are fees that get paid. Why are they also not paying jurors fees? I need the answer to this. So anyway, hashtag jurists rights. Anyway, that's my rant. When the court's over, I'll have more to share because it's pretty funny. So, but we're not doing that right now because we're not supposed to talk about anything. And you know the reach this podcast has. So this week is we're covering Saturday Morning Adventures issue number 2. And before we do that, I want you guys to go online and I want you to follow me on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. Hashtag Juris Rights, and and give me a follow. Send me an email to joeonjoepod@gmail.com. They never should have picked me for this jury. And I'm an alternate, so I have to just sit there and listen and know that my opinion is not going to matter in any way, shape, or form. Send me an email to joeonjoepod@gmail.com. And while you're on the internet doing all that, I want you to go and follow on your podcatcher while you're leaving me a 5-star review. I want you to follow our friends the Movies in a Meal podcast, because they're our fabulous sponsor. They've been sponsoring me now for a couple of years, and they are awesome. And I'm sure they have a lot to say about Morbius, because I also, so speaking of things that suck, I also saw Morbius last week. Woof. Anyway, listen to Movies in a Meal.
Listeners, I know what you need in your life. You need more podcasts. And you also love movies. So why not do a podcast that's about not one movie? It's about not 2 movies. It's about 3 movies and a meal. I'm talking the Movies and a Meal podcast. This show is great. It's brought to you by Keith, Brad, and Ben. And each week they bring a new movie to the table, which they all discuss as a group. And it's not, your highfalutin movies. It's What We Do in the Shadows, The Fantastic Four, Rise of the Silver Surfer, and Out of Sight. It's Bad Education, Ghost Rider, and A View to a Kill. It's X-Men Last Stand, Queen Sugar, The Mandalorian, and Major League 2. They are a lot of fun to listen to. You guys know Ben. It's our friend Ben Pensarga. He was a guest on Joe and Joe. In fact, Ben was the very first remote guest that I ever had on this podcast, so he's always got a special place in my heart. I'm really digging this. I just started listening to it last week. It is a lot of fun. They bring a guest in. The guest, I listened to their Heathers episode. They were joined by Kelly, and she went in depth on her favorite movie, which was Heathers, and it made me want to go watch Heathers to watch with them. I really dig it. So guys, find them out there at Movies and a Meal, Twitter, Instagram. Their website is moviesandameal.podbean.com. They put out 1 episode a week. Give them a listen, guys. Support them. Let them know Joe on Joe sent you. I don't think you're going to be disappointed. It is quite entertaining. And now back to the show.
What's really funny is next week, when the court's over, I'm going to tell you why it's so funny that I saw Morbius last week. That movie's terrible. That movie's bad on many levels, and it's the kind of bad that it's actually hard to just talk about, because there's no real moments of, oh, that was cringe-inducing bad. It's just bad. But if you've seen it, like a friend of the show, Matt Plasman, a fellow Joe fan and awesome dude all around, he saw it, and we were absolutely able to have a shorthand conversation. We were like, what about when? And then the other one would finish the sentence, and we're like, that was it. But you have to see it to really understand how bad it is. But Morbius is bad, and Morbius is the kind of movie that the world deserves for giving Venom so much money. It's because Sony got emboldened by the world giving Venom $1 billion when it did not deserve $1 billion. In a world where Hulk movies barely make over $300 million, Venom did not deserve $1 billion. And because of that, we get Morbius. Morbius is not a good movie. And it's not even, I guess it sort of is bad fun, because there is some bad fun to be had, but it's really not as bad fun as it could be. It's just garbage. I sat there with Toilet Teal, and both of us sat there in silence. There wasn't at moments. There was no fun. There was no joy. There was no laughter. There was no shock. There was no, oh my gosh, that's how shock. Ooh, you got me there, Morbius. None of that. And then when the whole movie ended, she heard me let out this sigh of defeat, and she just said, oh, thank God. I thought it was just me. And it's really bad. So avoid Morbius. That's my Movies in a Meal tie-in tidbit for today.
You were saying?
Now, Stalker. I was saying. So this is a segment for you new listeners where when we talk about the comic book that we normally do, which is Joe and Joe Illustrated, normally we talk about a comic book that's 30 years old. We talk about the books that were on the shelves the same month as the book in discussion. So when last we left, I think we were on like February of 1991, right? Or February of 92 or something like that. But these books came out this week, or this month rather. So I've got a smattering of books. And last time I just skipped this segment, and friend of the show, Dave Amy, had said, how dare you? I want to know what you're reading right now. And I said, you know what? That's a good idea. So I'm actually backlogged a little bit. So some of these books I'm not really caught up on exactly what's happening in them. But I grabbed the books that I purchased the same week as G.I. Joe Saturday Morning Adventures 2. Or at least, or I grabbed them this week. These are the books that I grabbed this week. And these are in my hands right now. So just a smattering, and I'll give you a little quick brief overview. I've got Donny Cates' Hulk number 5. I enjoy Donny Cates. I like his work. I think there's a lot of, he's the, he gets a lot of buzz. He's a lot of flash. A lot of people love his stuff. He's the hot Marvel writer right now. And I think deservedly so. He writes some good stuff. I noticed a pattern that most of his stuff are just these giant epic world shattering things, which, they're done well. So I guess I can't complain. I don't mean to sound like that guy. But every book he takes over is a giant world shatterer. I'll say this: I'm reading his crossover book, and that's really good. Although it's a giant world shattering epic, and his Hulk is a giant world shattering epic, and his Thor has been a giant world shattering epic. But they're good. They're good, and the Hulk is solid. It's still not as good as the Immortal Hulk. The Immortal Hulk is awesome. Like that's the Immortal Hulk is like, let's see. Immortal Hulk is like why am I blanking on who wrote that? Because it was written by Al Ewing. Yeah, Al Ewing. It's been like 5 months and I've already forgotten. No, I've not forgotten. Immortal Hulk is the best Hulk I've read in years. If you guys haven't read Immortal Hulk, you need to check it out. It's all completed now. They're probably doing a big omnibus of it. It only ran about 50 issues with a couple specials here and there. So that actually would fit into one nice omnibus, maybe two. But it's just a delight of a series. So if you've not read Immortal Hulk, you really need to check that out. So yeah, Donny Cates' Hulk is pretty good. I'm also checking out for Marvel. The other book I grabbed here is The Excellent, which is the Ecstatics revival from Peter Milligan and Mike Allred and Laura Allred. This is, if you guys remember Ecstatics, this was the late 90s, early 2000s spin-off team from X-Force, which featured like You-Go Girl and Dupe and the Dog Boy or something. I don't know. I don't remember exactly the names, but it was the commentary on social media what would become social media, but commentary on fame and celebrity. And it was an X-Men team as a famous team. It was really well done. It started, I think, in issue like 116 of X-Force, and it ran for about 6 issues there, and then they got their own series, Ecstatics. And Dupe by far was always the best, but like the one guy, he sweated acid, and there was another guy who like vomited. Like they all had really weird powers, but it was drawn by Mike Allred, and it was just delightfully drawn. And Peter Milligan did a lovely job writing it. Like it was a wonderful piece. So if you've ever read the old Ecstatic stuff, do it. So I picked up Excellent because I'm a fan of that. I am not necessarily, I'll use this as a launch point to talk about some of the other X books, because I do have an issue of X-Force here, and I read X-Men Red last night. Overall, the Hickman direction of the X books, not great. It's really not. This whole Krakoa thing, I'll give you this. It's different, sure. And if it's a world where your biggest complaint is that they do the same thing over and over again, I would say, well, that's what comic books do. Like they just do the same thing over and over again, just with different creative teams and different window dressing. So I don't necessarily know that that's a bad thing, because what you've done now is you've given us a book that's just not any of the X-Men. It's not like any X book that we've read, any X universe that we've read or enjoyed. So you're essentially asking me to enjoy this entire new universe based on this entire new premise with a whole bunch of characters that aren't acting like they used to act because they need to fit into your new paradigm, but they look like Wolverine. So, okay. You know what I mean? Like that's it. Like it's that kind of a reboot. So I don't like it. It's not great for a bunch of reasons. It's gone on. It's just gone on and on and on. And I don't necessarily care about really anything in it. Yeah. So I still read some of them though. Like X-Men is fun. Jerry Duggan's writing that, and he's a really good writer. And he wrote, what did he do? He did Marauders. Marauders was well written most of the time. Not that it was poorly written the other times, but a lot of times, again, the storyline, I don't care about it. I just give me adventure. Give me these stories. If there's another scene of people sitting around that stupid round table in Krakoa, just telling us how they're managing the island of Krakoa, I'm gonna send She-Hulk to your house and burn up and tear up all your X-Men comics. That's what's gonna happen. There was some interesting stuff. I did like the early X-Force stuff. Not really sure where they're going there. I kind of like them fighting the old Golden Girls. That was kind of fun. The old ladies who were like old scientists. Like that idea is fun. But then nobody ever fights anybody. They just sit around and talk and talk and talk and talk and sit around and gab about how they're influencing. There is so much about X-Men that is not working for me and has not been working for me. And that's a common refrain around the comic show. And then Devil's Reign. This is issue 6 of 6. I believe issue 5 I've not read yet. I know I read it 1 through 4 for sure. So I haven't read this one yet. I think I know what happens in it. I think I saw a spoiler online. But this is the big Daredevil crossover. It's really good. Chip Zdarsky. I'm a real big fan of his writing. I like it quite a bit. The only issue here is I just feel like we've seen this stuff over and over again. This, I don't know. Well, Kingpin versus Daredevil, certainly. But like the city versus the heroes and Kingpin versus Daredevil for control of the city or parts of the city or all of the city. And it's just shades of difference is what we're talking about now. So in this case, it's Kingpin's the mayor now, and now they're fighting for all of New York instead of just Hell's Kitchen. It's good though. It's enjoyable. It's fine. I'm not reading any of the crossovers except I guess the Elektra one. I guess that's technically a crossover. But I'm reading that because it's kind of really a continuation of the Daredevil book. But I like Daredevil, and I like Chip Zdarsky. I do have G.I. Joe 291 in front of me. I have not read it yet, specifically because I didn't want to get confused with the stuff we're talking about with Saturday morning today. So I haven't read G.I. Joe 291 yet. And then that's it for...
You were saying?
Although I did buy and am enjoying The Thing miniseries by Walter Mosley. Issue 6 came out, and I haven't read it yet, but it's sitting in front of me, and I am enjoying that miniseries. From DC, the only book that's sitting in front of me from this week was One Star Squadron by Mark Russell, Steve Lieber. And first of all, Steve Lieber was involved with that the Jimmy Olsen series, which was great, and plenty of other stuff too. And Mark Russell is fantastic, and he's one of the smartest, just most on the spot writers working in comics today, as far as sneaking in some really good thinking social commentary rather. From his work I noticed him first found him on the Flintstones, and then his Snagglepuss stuff was great. And this One Star Squadron's it's shaping up to be really good. I'm enjoying it quite a bit. It's the B-listers doing it. And again, this is a concept we've seen before. So this isn't exactly like the freshest idea, but I'm enjoying his execution quite a bit. He's a real talented writer. We just saw that they announced they're doing something. Oh, what is it? Shoot. Oh, I can't remember what it is. But hold on, I'm gonna find out. I figured it out. He's doing a book called Superman Space Age. It's a 3-part prestige format thing. And the artist on it with Mike Allred, the aforementioned Mike Allred. That's what it was. It's like dealing with the, it's like kind of traveling through the history of DC Universe using Superman as a lens, something like that. and I'm here for that. I don't care what else they do, but just the concept of Mark Russell and Mike Allred doing a kind of a history of Superman. Yeah, sign me up. So that's really, really good. And that's kind of it. I think that's going to be it for,
You were saying?
and now let's dig into Saturday morning adventures.
Now, mass is ready.
That's right, Destro. Saturday morning adventures. We've got wonderful cover. I like this cover a lot. With a gigantic bat in there. I think they call him in the comics, they actually give him a name of MegaB.A.T.S, which totally works. A tiny quick kick falling over the logo, and a couple dragonflies piloting, flying over the skies. The dragonflies give it some nice scale. The buildings obviously help as well. Mountains in the background. Like this all works. Yeah, this all works. This is a good cover. It's a very fun cover. And if we look on the interior, or is it in the back pages? I thought they had both covers shown. We'll jump ahead a little bit here. Yeah. I'm just going to jump to the back. So the other covers that we had for this, one was, and this cover is by Dan Schoening, with Luis Antonio Delgado on the colors. Then Tim Lattie, Lattie, he did the artwork on another one with, it's kind of it's a cartoonish look, but a little exaggerated, a little indie comic vibe with Destro and Baroness holding a magic lamp, and inside you see Duke Scarlet, Snake Eyes trapped in the lamp, smoke everywhere, the Dreadnoks, Mindbender, Zartan, and a bunch of Cobra Fire Bats kind of surrounding it. That's a fun cover too. And then Pharaoh Pay, I'm going to say. He did the artwork on this third cover, which is also very nice. And it is, it's like a collage cover, a character collage with some nice design of kind of getting the eye into a vanishing point, triangle there with Destro and Baroness and Cobra Commander, and then Lady J, Roadblock, Scarlet, Snake Eyes, and Duke, all kind of leading the charge with some smoke in the back, and then space up top for the logo. It's actually it's a nice design, and they're definitely the show looks. I actually like the rendering of Scarlet on this in a real way. Like it's a real world. It's kind of it's a less anime-y, fake looking Scarlet. Like this is, it's not, I wouldn't say it's a realistic rendering by any stretch. It's not like some kind of, Neil Adams Scarlet kind of a real way, but it looks like a real human being in a real, leotard leaping through the sky. If you guys see it, you'll see what I mean. There's good wrinkles in the right places. She's not overly posed. It's a nice Scarlet. I don't know that I've seen his art. I probably have somewhere, but this is good. Yeah, that's fun. I liked all three of those covers. With that,
Yo, Joe!
we'll dig in. Writer Eric Burnham, artist Dan Schoening, colorist Luis Antonio Delgado, lettered by Neil Uyetake, group editor Tom Waltz, Megan Brown, editor, and friend of the show, the great Diana Davis, research specialist. So welcome. You guys did a great job. Be proud of this one, and I do mean that. This is a good issue. I think this one, this is a solid issue overall. So we start in Tokyo, Japan, Washington, D.C., and Paris, France. You got 3 inserts with Cobra Commander, screaming about Cobra on the other page, and he's holding the magic lamp in his hand. He's talking about all terror to the benefit of Cobra. And right away what they do here is they set you up with a classic Joe trope. And it's a classic trope of comics too, where you have a larger team, you split up and you go on different adventures. But it's definitely a piece of Joe history where, you have the miniseries, and so each episode where they'd go on, would be, we have to go on this mission. This team has to go get this mineral, and you have to go get that mineral, and you have to go stop this person. And that's essentially what we're getting in this issue. So they've released MegaB.A.T.S to Tokyo, Washington, and Paris. So we don't bury the lead. That's where we're going to be spending our time today.
Yo, Joe!
And it's smooth like an animation cell, man. It really is. We cut to Destro, and he's giving a little exposition, talking about the force fields on the bats. And this is where we say we get the MegaB.A.T.S. It's gonna the Joes will find the MegaB.A.T.S more than formidable, and Baroness is asking the question that the readers are going to be asking, which is smart. You have a genie at your disposal. Why didn't you just wish for the money instead of having these bats extort those governments? And Cobra Commander points out that the money is not the point. He wants what the genie won't grant. And Genie covered that in last issue, is just the fear, the influence, for the world's powers to realize that there's nothing they can do to oppose my will. I may not be able to wish for their devotion, but he'll have their compliance. It's smart, and I like the transitional camera here, where it's kind of working its way around the room and zooming in on Cobra Commander at the bottom of the page.
Yo, Joe!
And then, of course, we're interrupted by those Zaymot twins, or rather or they Tomek Zaymot. What was their last name again? The Corsican twins, but they're the Paoli twins. Yeah, right. I think that's a relatively newish, like last 15, 20 years where they added the Paoli part. I don't think that was mentioned, right? Wasn't that first mentioned like around like the Devil's Due stuff? I don't think that was Paoli was ever mentioned back in this like the old Sunbow era. So like that's never in my head is the reason I'm bringing that up. So they're just reporting in from the field, and Cobra Commander repeats that he wants the world to see the Joe struggle. So now he commands the genie to show back up, and here comes Aladdin, and he says, and this is specifically, so we're going to go specifics here, and you always know every genie story it's going to be a problem with semantics. And Cobra Commander says, for my second wish, I want upgraded weaponry for my most loyal soldiers. Upgrades that can't do any harm to me. That's exactly what he says. Now the genie says, granted, and he says, exactly as you say, and he snaps his fingers. And this is fun. And now, Baroness questions like loyal soldier, like who does that leave? And we're going to find out. That's one thing I was hoping that we would learn in this.
Yo, Joe!
Which it doesn't play out, and that's just me going, oh, that would have been a fun way to take this. Is that, and we'll go through with it, but is that it would expose who was and wasn't loyal, and it doesn't really do that. Like it, anyway, we'll talk about it when we get there. So now we just cut over to Paris, France, and Wild Bill is there, and he's in his Dragonfly. We have a Skyhawk flying, and of course, Bill's talking. He's going to, they're fighting one of these giant MegaB.A.T.S in the streets of Paris. And how do we know we're in Paris? Because there's the Eiffel Tower. And Flint and Lady J, they're in an Awestriker on the ground, talking about how it's not a competition to knock these down. And this is just a real animation. This is just all, the pacing is really animated. The dialogue is where, Flint's like, it's not a competition, Wild Bill. And you can just hear Lady J saying, I'd say he's right, Flint. And I do love to win. And then she fires off a bazooka. Like that's just an animation move. It is.
Yo, Joe!
Now she hits this MegaB.A.T in the knee. And what I really found charming about this page is, so the bats. So bats are robots, right? And they are human sized. And so when they're human sized, you don't think about it, but they just, they wear they drape them in human clothing, right? They throw a sweatshirt on them and they call it a day. So they make it easy, right? But now you've got so he's got giant pants on, and the idea of giant pants ripping from a bazooka made me laugh very hard in this page. And I don't know why. I don't think that was intentional. I just think the concept of giant pants and clothing on a giant robot, I'm here for that. Like if you hit a growth ray on a giant robot, my brain goes, okay, I get that. You got a giant robot. But then the fact that his pants got bigger too, that really makes me laugh. But Lady J's rocket did not make her laugh because it did nothing. So now we get a bunch of trouble bubbles showing up, and it's the Paoli brothers and then a bunch of Vipers.
Yo, Joe!
And now we cut over to Washington, D.C., and it's essentially the exact same scene, but with different players. So we've got Alpine and Bazooka, and Alpine's hitting him with tank fire, and they've got shields. The shields are stopping the tank fire, etc. And while this is happening, we see Major Blood flying overhead, and he's shooting the Mauler. Well, hold on.
Yo, Joe!
We needed to skip a page. So now Major Blood is shooting the Mauler, right? And the Mauler gets flipped over and the guys get running out. So we see that he's shooting him with an upgraded weapon. So that tells me that he's one of Cobra Commander's most loyal troopers. I would have loved if someone in here, like who you think is really, really loyal, just fire a gun and it just like squirts water, or something like that. Like it just does. It's not a hyped up power thing, because in reality, we know that they're not very loyal to Cobra Commander. But in this case, we learn that Major Blood is, which is shocking because he's a mercenary. Like the last person I would feel like would be loyal to Cobra Commander would be Major Blood, but he does. He gets one of those upgraded weapons, and he's knocking out Maulers left and right. But Scarlet and Duke and Rock and Roll and Roadblock are there, and they're kind of they're filling in what's happening, and it really fits animation style. This fits what's happening, where you would see it and then have someone confirm it verbally, right? That there's an energy shield around the Bat's most vulnerable points. Even another crash won't get us past those.
Yo, Joe!
And now we get the genie. Oh, I'm sorry. I grabbed 2 pages. Now we're in Tokyo, Japan. Pardon me. So the third location in Tokyo is a sea-based action. So we're gonna get some shipwreck and some quick kick action here. And they're not on the flag, but they're on some boats. And there's some sharks. G.I. Joe sharks are flying around. And shipwreck and quick kick are in cannons on these boats. And they're shooting at the Bat. But overhead, Zartan flies in, and he uses one of those upgraded lasers to kill Shipwreck. Right now, before that, Shipwreck and Quick Kick were chatting, and Quick Kick says, "You trying to spoil my good time here, or what?" And Ship replies, "Hey, it's me. Like, yeah, of course I'm trying to ruin a good time." And that's when Zartan hits Shipwreck and kills him. It's an important subject, important note here. So, breaking down this page a little bit, I like that when we cut here, they're right in the middle of the fight, because we've already seen it on the previous 2 pages, right? So that's a storytelling beat that you need to know. You've already covered how these initial interactions are going to happen, where big guy lumbering down the street, we need to fire, we need to find out, oh no, we can't hit him, blah, blah, blah. In this case, they're in the middle of it. We don't need to see that because we've already seen it basically twice. This middle panel suffers a little bit from animation scale itis. It's a little too far for me. Like, we're just establishing that Quick Kick and Shipwreck are even on this, and they're so far in the distance that it's hard. I don't know how you at scale do that tighter, because it seems to fit scale of it. Maybe you do insets of them, like close-ups of them kind of talking over the lasers or something like that, so you get a little close-up feel, because when you get to Shipwreck being blown away at the bottom, especially with the direction that Quick Kick is pointing on the bottom, it doesn't register to me immediately that Zartan destroyed Shipwreck, right? There's Polly is flying around. That's funny. But you know what I'm saying? Like they Quick Kick is pointing at Shipwreck. In the previous panel, Quick Kick is pointing parallel with Shipwreck, where they're both pointing in the same direction, right? They're both shooting at the same thing. And then in the bottom panel, it seems as if Quick Kick would have also been shooting at Shipwreck, where the explosion is. So, like, that's kind of a layout problem that I have with this page. You follow it, especially because Quick Kick screams shipwreck. You know, you follow what's going on. However, actually, let me throw that back. In the previous panel, Quick Kick never calls him shipwreck. I would say something's missing here as far as establishing where, you know, there just needs to be a bolder establishment. If they want any if you want any shock for us, I think you need to establish that it's shipwreck in Quick Kick a little harder on this page, and then it's shipwreck that's blown up, and that may be nitpicky, but
Yo, Joe!
because then we cut to the next page, and we're, you know, and the guys are looking at a screen of, you know, a G.I. Joe has perished. You know, Cobra Commander's watching it through, I don't know what camera, but he's watching it, and now he's talking about how the MegaB.A.T.S is going to crush the others. It's going to be glorious, and then we see Cobra Commander react to it first, that it's impossible, and then we cut to the screen and we see that Shipwreck's still alive, and Quick Kick's really happy about it. Shipwreck's walking out of the destruction. So Shipwreck's alive, which is good. You know, you can't kill Ship. He's the best.
Yo, Joe!
So Cobra Commander has words with the genie, and he says, I was specific to the terms of your wish. The G.I. Joe specifically referred to himself as me. You wish that the power have no powers over me. Thus, the weapons cannot harm him. Cobra Commander says, unfair. You knew exactly what I meant. You cheated me. And, you know, the genie explains, I'm under no obligation. I'm only under obligation to grant you wishes, not make sure that there aren't any loopholes. You know, he tries to get him to use his third wish to correct it, just so he'd be free of him. And, you know, he disappears, blah, blah, blah. And, of course, this engenders him to Destro and the Baroness. I love the artwork and all this. This all looks great. It's classic, you know, genie mix-up tropes of, you know, to the letter and all that stuff. Yeah, no, it works. But there's other moments later in the comic where then now it puts you on guard to watch for people calling themselves me. And there's a few moments where it comes up. Hold on.
Yo, Joe!
And this is great because Shipwreck realizes that, he's got a good run of luck, so he's not going to miss it. And this is a great Ship moment, and it's really written in character. I really like it. We've also got Polly speaking in a comic book, which is everything I've ever dreamed of. Thank you for that. And we've got Polly quoting Star Wars, which is great because the original Joe's cartoons, they pulled a lot from like Star Wars and Raiders. I mean, there was just a lot of influence on that stuff, you know, whether it was, dialogue or just scenes and mood and like I'm blanking on some specifics, but when we did our episode by episode breakdowns, we'd always find stuff that was pulled from Star Wars movies and all that stuff. So those were definitely an influence on this era of G.I. Joe. And so to have Polly say, never tell me the odds is absolutely great. So Zartan and Shipwreck and Polly jump into a shark, and Zartan's in hot pursuit. Zartan and the Dreadnoks.
Yo, Joe!
In a high-speed pursuit. And they say every shot from these fancy guns just seem to bounce off. And it's true. They don't work because they're protected because Shipwreck called himself me. So they can't seem to hit the shark, and so the shark's kind of making a beeline for the bat. And so as they continue to fire at the shark, and this is a very comic book moment, that Zartan is usually the one that sees the flaw right before it's too late to stop it. You know, and in this case, careful you fools, you might hit
Yo, Joe!
the bat. So Shipwreck maneuvered them into shooting at the bat, and that was pretty great. So the back of the bat gets hit with these supercharged lasers that Cobra Commander wished for, and and that staggers the bat. And the MegaB.A.T.S is experiencing catastrophic failure, Destro. Actually, that was the Baroness who said that. That's funny. But they didn't hold because they were shooting with the magic weapons. And Cobra Commander, looking at what seems to be a countdown clock that's set at 31:16, and then it counts down to 31:15. He says, tell him I will allow to sound a retreat. Now let's look at the other battles.
Yo, Joe!
He's telling Zartan to retreat, right? So now we're back in D.C., and it's Scarlet and Duke, and Duke's got his jetpack on, which is great. And Duke's gonna fly up with a piece of dynamite, some TNT, and he's gonna plant it on this MegaB.A.T, and try to get into the seams of the bat. And that's the only way, like in the elbow scenes, it's the only way they're gonna possibly make it done here. So he flies up and he kind of gives it a good once over.
Yo, Joe!
So I think the idea is that the shields are layered so that they have, like, you can get under one shield, like the shields will hold this bomb in place. So you can just kind of manually insert it. The shields are going to stop any lasers. But you can one man slip a piece of explosive into the shield. That's the idea. And sure enough, it works for Duke. And the left arm of this battle android trooper seems to be taken out. The guys give a good yo Joe. Got rock and roll, got gung ho showing up. And Scarlet gives us an oh no, Duke, look out, because
Yo, Joe!
like all good Joe adventures, Duke gets captured and is by the left arm of the bat, so that dynamite really didn't do much. So the bat's arm reaches up and it grabs Duke in a pincher. And the Cobras are celebrating that they've caught Duke. Baroness wants him crushed, which is awesome. And Cobra Commander says he's worth more to me alive. Speaking of worth, he calls all Cobra forces. Speaking to all, so any good Joe adventure is always good with you always need a communication, a communique from your Cobra Commander.
Yo, Joe!
You got the bat climbing the Eiffel Tower, which is awesome. Very King Kong-esque. Very much, that's what you would want your bat to do while you're in France. That's great. And he basically says, everyone back off, return to base. And they're winning, so why should they retreat? But it's a strategic withdrawal. They've done exactly what Cobra Commander wanted.
Yo, Joe!
And they all take off. And so now we're really spending a lot of time with Cobra here, and we're getting Cobra Commander kind of explaining to us the reasons why he's doing it. He wants the Joes to live with the demoralization of their utter failure, so on and so forth. The Paoli twins are... So this is another thing, too. The Paoli twins, they finish each other's sentences here, but they don't finish them. There's more I feel like in the tradition is usually really finishing sentences, not just finishing thoughts. And there's earlier in this comic, I meant to point this out. There's moments where they're sort of continuing the sentence, but it's more of like they're not finishing thoughts; they're finishing sentences. Yeah, this is back on page 3 or whatever. Where they're like, the Joes have deployed to the target cities. Like, that's a full thought. And then Tomax is like, and are approaching the MegaB.A.T.S. They've already destroyed one. That's a full thought. And then it goes back to Xamot, and he's like, what do you propose we do now? And I don't know. I have, for my money, that the twins finish the thought, not just the grammatical sentences, right? So it's more of, the Joes have deployed, switch to the target cities, and are approaching the MegaB.A.T.S. They've already destroyed one. Like, what do you? And then they kind of both chime in, propose we do. Like, that's always been my understanding of their cadence. It's more of a thought finisher instead of a sentence finisher. And they're more sentence finishers in this. That is not a big complaint. Don't get me wrong. It's still fun. And they're still doing the Lord's work here. But so they all take off. And, the Flint and Lady J are left trying to figure out what was their game.
Yo, Joe!
So now we're back with Cobra Commander and Baroness, and she's asking, why did you call that order off? And he says he's got a bigger plan. Now, this kind of comes out of left field. And it's left field for us, too, because while the MegaB.A.T.S were commanding the attention of the world, my forces raided the strategic gold reserves of France, Japan, and the United States. So the whole thing was a ruse for Cobra Commander to steal Fort Knox. Which is that's absolutely on brand for Cobra. There there was an episode where they literally did this, but the whole thing was a ruse. That seems really shocking to us, the reader. Like, we're changing. It's like, it's kind of like we're changing MacGuffins midstream. Like, we're going from, oh, okay, they got this. We got to deal with a magical genie, but also at the same time, Cobra Commander has an actual plan to actually steal all this gold without the use of the genie. So that's interesting.
Yo, Joe!
And finally, unrelated to that, we've got a PSA here. G.I. Joe presents That's All You Had to Say, and this is a wonderful PSA. Let's just say I had the exact same concept for writing Snake Eyes in my summer show that you guys will hear in July. So it works. I think it's the greatest way to write Snake Eyes, where he stands there and does nothing, and everyone else gets it, and they all fall in line just because he's Snake Eyes. So that's it. And then some kid stealing comic books and talking about, Snake Eyes shames him into returning the comic book, even though Snake Eyes says nothing. And now I know better. Knowing's half the battle. It's pretty great. The book the kid is stealing is the classic G.I. Joe. Is it 38? It's the one with Destro and Storm Shadow. Destro's pointing the gun at him with the yellow background. That's the issue the kid is stealing. How dare you, child? So it's a good PSA. I think it totally works. So that's it. It's a good issue. It's a real good issue. It's a real good comic. So, don't get me wrong, any complaints are just that, just little nitpicks here and there. I do think overall, they're absolutely capturing the look of Frozen Cells. And what I'm finding is that it's the translation from that to comic books is different. It's a little, I'm finding a little lacking in the transitions, like it's not a complaint. Like it's an experiment, it's a style, and I think they do it really well. So that's, but yeah, so things like that shipwreck page I was talking about, where I would want a close up or an insert or somehow some grounding for us of Shipwreck being the character that's about to bite it. Something like that is harder to do when most of your comic page layouts are to look like these giant cells from animation. So I totally get it, but I think these guys have really done a great job. I genuinely mean it. It's really solid. Diane Davis, once again, wonderful work. Really impressive. Excellent research. And that's it for this week. So, maybe next week I'll fill you guys more in jury duty. # jurist rights. And now you Joe. Joeing is half the battle.